Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to this thing that I do called Thor's Entertainment. I am Thor, and today I am doing another Fatal Friday video. Fatal Friday being the series I do where I take the main roster and cameo fighters for Mortal Kombat 1 into the Kombat League, and once I am there, I try to get their unique finishers like Brutalities and Fatalities. This time around, I am going after a Brutality for the Kameo Kano. Now, this brutality was by far one of the more difficult ones for me to get. On the scale of how bad it was, well, it was not as bad as the Taste of Blood brutality for Natara, but it's probably my second place one. And the brutality I'm referring to is Knife to Meet You. Knife to Meet You is, well, as you would expect with that kind of a name, it is the brutality version of Kano's knife throws. So Kano has this move where he throws two knives at the opponent. And if you do it just right, you will activate the brutality, which then stabs the opponent in the face. I believe the knives go in both of the opponent's eyes, and that's how they die. So what exactly about this brutality was so difficult that it kind of made it up to my second place for the most difficult brutality I've had to do? Well, we'll go ahead and break that down a little bit because I definitely want to talk about it because it took me a lot of tries to get this brutality. So when it comes to criteria, the one that the game tells you about is that you have to be far away from your opponent in order to get this brutality. That's a little bit different than the other projectile-related brutalities you get for cameo and main roster fighters. Normally, the requirement is that you be at jumping distance away. That was the case whenever I got the Released Demon brutality for Serena and the Iced Out brutality for Frost. And as far as main roster characters go, you also have ones like Scorpion who have the Stop Ahead brutality, which is the brutality version of his spear throw, which is also jumping distance away. So yeah, normally when it comes to these weak projectiles, jumping distance is normal. Far away is not so normal. But why would far away versus jumping distance be a big deal? Well, it's mostly because the opponent that you're going against can be a little bit unpredictable, especially whenever you are about to win the match. Now, these projectiles are pretty weak, so your opponent needs to be nearly dead in order for you to get the brutality. Problem is, if they are nearly dead, they're not running away from you. They're generally going to be coming after you in order to try and make some kind of a comeback. So, more often than not, even if you were to land the knife throws from Kano, the opponent would be advancing on you, and by the time the knives hit, they were no longer far away from you. So the brutality just would not happen. But even if you are able to hit them with the knife throws at a far distance, the brutality might not activate. And the reason for that is, and the game does not tell you this, Kano throws two knives, and both of them do individual damage. If the second knife kills the opponent, the brutality will not activate. They have to die when the very first knife hits them. The brutality requirements do not tell you this, I just had to figure it out. Because there were a couple of times when I thought I finally got the brutality, and it just did not activate. And man, that really fucking sucked to figure out because trying to get them to stay at far distance, as I described earlier, not the easiest thing in the world to do. Whenever I was initially going for this brutality, I had paired up Kano and Peacemaker. And eventually I just realized that Peacemaker was probably not the best person to try and get this brutality with. I mean, I'm sure it can definitely be done, but I wasn't able to make it work. So instead I thought to myself, I need a character that can keep the opponent at a distance long enough for those knives to hit. So I thought to myself, you know what? It might be time to pick up a character I have not used in months. So I went ahead and got Sub-Zero. My logic was if I could just freeze them at a far distance, it pretty much guarantees that the knives hit, and then maybe, if their health is low enough, I will get the brutality. I really wished I had a more tactically advantageous way of getting this brutality, but it was honestly a lot of luck. On that note, I did not anticipate that I would be using Sub-Zero again. As of the time I am voicing this over, I had already gotten all of Sub-Zero's brutalities and fatalities. I got all of those while using the Serena cameo, so I thought I was done with Sub-Zero. The last time I used him I think was in Season 2, so it's been several months. But I kind of had this idea, and I did recently play as Sub-Zero in the story mode for my separate recordings for the story mode, and I thought to myself, fuck it, why not, let's go ahead and give this a try. So what you are seeing here on screen today is me not having practice with either Sub-Zero or Kano as a team, and just trying to make it work on the fly. Honestly, it's an absolutely terrible idea, and in hindsight, it's a miracle I ever got this brutality because I was not really prepared. And as a result, I'm going to be perfectly honest, this is probably going to be the very worst Sub-Zero gameplay you see from me. But in the end, I do end up making it work, so I guess it wasn't all that bad. Still, since I did not practice with Subzero and Kano together, you're not really going to be seeing me summon Kano for very much. I had no idea what the best way was to use him with Subzero, so Kano kind of just stays on the sideline until the very end. Now, I also got kind of lucky with the opponent that I got. Whenever I saw the record, they had a winning record, and I was like, crap. Okay, so this might not work out so good. I'm using a character I'm not very familiar with anymore, and clearly they're doing alright. This might go poorly. Well, as I am watching this back, I think my opponent was trying to win in a very specific way as well. I have no way of knowing this, but they had perfect opportunities to land very big combos against me, and they just never really seemed to do it. Instead, more often than not, they were just trying to throw me. And they would do the frost throw specifically. So in my mind, I'm kind of wondering if this person was just trying to win by getting as many throws as humanly possible. Now, I have no way of knowing that, but it just seemed really odd that this person was throwing that much when there were way more high damaging options on the table. Like, Scorpion was able to get me speared, which leaves you open for a combo, or he'd occasionally freeze me with frost, which also leaves you open for a combo, but rather than doing that, which definitely would have at least been like in the 200 range of damage, if not way higher, they would instead go for a frost throw, or occasionally like an uppercut. It was just really weird. And don't get me wrong, I throw a bunch in certain fights. Like, I've made a joke about it in some videos. Those are probably out by now, but if not, there are select fights where I have a counter, where we count the amount of times I throw the opponent in a specific way. Because I will abuse the crap out of that if somebody is just failing to escape it. Now this guy, he puts me to shame. Like, he is doing it non-stop with frost. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do that counter again for my opponent because, man, they definitely shatter my record for the most throws in a single fight. And again, I have to imagine that was deliberate. Like, based on their record, there's no way they have like 16 more wins than losses by just throwing people constantly. So I get the impression this person was probably just fucking around and maybe even just poking fun at me. I mean, I'm not going to complain too much, it kept me in the fight, but it was pretty peculiar. Especially from somebody with a decent enough winning record. Outside of throws, though, by far the biggest amount of damage that the opposing Scorpion has managed to get against me has come in the form of his fatal blow. Now, in the very first match, it took 3 separate attempts, but finally, Scorpion did end up landing that fatal blow, and I think that's what killed me in the very first match. Now, I was not really doing much fighting back at the very end of that first match. I was really hoping to try and get some distance and then go for the brutality. Obviously, that did not work out because I lost, but that was my mentality. If they are on low health, try to escape, try to get the brutality. It just did not work out for me whatsoever in that very first match, and it ended up costing me it. Now, in this second match, I do experience something kind of similar where I get the opponent on pretty low health. Only due to my deficit being down 1-0, and it being the final round of this match, I couldn't risk it, so I ended up going for the win instead of the brutality. So yeah, due to my complete lack of risk-taking at the very end of that match, I end up taking it. And now we are suddenly tied 1-1. We're going into a third and final match, and I get one more opportunity to try and get the Kano Brutality Knife to meet you. All I could do was just hope that the Scorpion opponent continued to do the odd behaviors that he was doing because, in all likelihood, if they did, I would continue to have opportunities to stay in the match and eventually win and eventually go for that brutality. But we shall see. Let's go ahead and get into match number 3. Actually, I know I said let's go ahead and go into match number 3, but I'm not done reminiscing about match number 2 just yet. Because there was one other thing that Scorpion was doing in match number 2 that just stood out in my mind. And it is that special attack, I think it is down back 2, where Scorpion starts twirling around the spear, hitting you multiple times, and just a windmill of death. Now, the thing is, that is a punishable move if you do block it and time it right, which, fortunately, I did multiple times, I think, in that final round. So yeah, Scorpion, just keep doing the little windmill of death, keep going for the throws, keep going for the random spears, and please do not do any combos. Like, just don't do any of them. As long as that happens, I think we are going to be okay. And with that being said, I only need to win one more round and I win the entire set. So, things are looking up here. And so far, Scorpion is honoring my request. He is only giving me throws, random spears, and the whirly spinning windmill of death. It's looking good. I'm liking it. But I forgot about the other thing that Scorpion loved to do in all those other matches. This guy is very, very happy to throw out that fatal blow at random times. And yeah, he landed it again here in the third and final match. Which means that Scorpion has successfully landed his fatal blow against me in all 3 matches that I have faced him. Which definitely says a lot more about me than anything else. I probably should have been expecting it at this point. That is alright though, I'm perfectly fine with this going into a third and final round to determine who will win the entire set. That's some pretty exciting stuff. Although it was definitely super preventable. So yeah, he's landed 3 fatal blows. I've only blocked 1, I think. And one other one I had to use Breaker on, so Scorpion has been very successful landing those. It is about right here after this frost throw that things begin to kind of stall out between myself and the Scorpion opponent. The thing is, we kind of just go back and forth. Scorpion throws a spear, I throw an ice ball, he occasionally summons Frost to do her own little ice ball when he throws a spear, forcing me to block, and then it just kind of goes on like that for a while. Now, in hindsight, what I really should have been doing whenever he does not use Frost anyway, whenever he throws that spear, just duck, don't block, it goes over your head, and then just go immediately into Sub-Zero slide. Whenever you're not blocking, there's nothing to recover from, so you can just go into the slide, and Scorpion does not recover from his spear throw in time to block it. So, not like an amazing amount of damage, but it's good counter. It was a hell of a lot better than what I was doing. And finally, I am in the perfect situation where my opponent is one touch away from death. All there is left to do is run like hell, get far as fuck away, and start throwing knives, hoping that I can finally land that brutality. And of course, if I can freeze the opponent, all the better. And my opponent is running out of time, so they're going to have to start risking something or they're going to lose to a timeout. Let's see what happens.
Brutality. Sub-Zero wins.
And there it is. That was the knife to meet you brutality for the Kameo Kano. As time was running down, Scorpion tried to throw a spear at me, and around that same time, or a little bit before, I summoned Kano, who threw his knives, and before the spear could be thrown, the knives hit first. And finally, for what seems like the first time in pretty much ever, the opponent was actually the right distance away, the first knife killed, the brutality activated, and Scorpion doesn't have eyeballs anymore, replaced by knives. Oh man, I was actually in disbelief when this brutality actually landed. Like, I was happy, but just disbelief. I had tried so many times to get this with Peacemaker. I just wasn't really expecting this to happen because I had lost a ridiculous amount of times going for this brutality. Like, after a while, you don't really care about winning so much anymore with the character whenever you're just trying to go for a brutality. After a while, you just start putting yourself in really dumb situations where you should probably win, but you end up just losing because you're going for the brutality the whole time. And it kind of tanked my win-to-loss ratio for a while, which is fine. Like, that doesn't necessarily really matter to me so much as actually getting the brutality that I want in order to get these videos made. But man, this one took a while. Again, nowhere near as long or as painfully annoying as Natara's Taste of Blood brutality, but it was starting to get kind of close. So yeah, I got lucky, I got the brutality I wanted, and that is going to be the video. So yeah, that was the knife to meet you brutality for Kano. I'll go ahead and show it one more time at the end of the outro, that way we can all enjoy it one final time before parting ways. And I hope you did enjoy the brutality, and if you did, I do have other finisher-related videos for Mortal Kombat 1. Those can all be found on my channel underneath the Mortal Kombat 1 online playlist. But yeah, that is going to do it for me today. Thank you again for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you next time. Oh, no, wait. I kind of forgot to do something that I said I was going to do. I implemented the throw counter in post, so now we know the total amount of times that my opponent threw me with Frost, and I'm a man of my word, that total ended up being 22. He threw me 22 fucking times, and I did not break a single throw throughout this fight. I was just way off apparently. But yeah, that was it. That was the amazing amount of times my opponent managed to throw me, way more than I have thrown anyone in any fight ever. Now with that out of the way, the video is over for real this time. Take care. I'll see you next time.
Sub-Zero wins.